Alright guys, Halox here, back in my basement, and this will be episode 3 of the Trooper Trent Holiday Special Series. Tonight we're going to go over all the painting we have to do to the Holiday Special. Believe it or not, there's not that much painting to it, so let's get over to a tools list that we used in this build, and then we'll start on the painting process. So I'll catch you guys there. First off, there's many variants of the 2773 flash. This happens to be a Graflex version, which I think is the first version, and then they turned over to the Graphlite, and then there's a Graphlite, which is a different color aluminum, and the letters aren't impressed. With the Graflex 2773 and the Graphlite 2773, the letters are stamped in, and I thought it was anodized, but it's some kind of paint. I've tried paint stripper, I've tried acetone, I've tried oven cleaner, and nothing has this stuff come out except scraping it with a knife. So the Holiday Special on screen, you don't see the black lettering, because I believe now it is a Graphlite, but if you remove the black in the letters, it will pass off pretty good. So I just use my knife and clean out all the black. So that's probably your first step. If the letters don't bother you being filled in, you can completely skip this and move on to the next step. But we're going to clean these out and then report back. Okay, so now that we cleared out all the stamping from the lettering, you really don't have to worry about this because this is going to get covered. Next we're going to apply the square. So we'll set that up now and get to it. Okay, so I talked to Trent about this, and Trent sends these couple different ways. So you might have your sticker pattern like this, or come on, or you might have it look like that. If you do, we're going to cut this out like this, because we're going to make a center line. Because the center line lines up on a set of holes on the flash. Okay, so how do we find the center line? Just fold it in half. Make sure that the edge is good. I have a sharp line. So now we want this side here, like so. I'm going to stick, I gotta take the gloves off for this. I'll stick it on like this. Actually, I got to check my reference. Okay, so this is where we want our center line. Okay, so before I stick this, I just want to make sure. I'm trying to find those holes. Oh, Jesus. Okay, because now this arrow is going to cover that hole there. And then this should just touch the screw here. So just want to make sure the difference is split good. There's my center line right there. Bring it around like that. Okay, should work. So now we got our center line. We're going to stick it right on the center there. Okay. So now I got my center line. Like that. Before we press down hard, I'll just make sure you can actually imprint the circle here like that. That's how we can line. It's going to work great. Perfect. Okay, so now that we have the sticker on, we'll press it down. We're going to use our blue tape to tape around it. So I'll do that and report back. Okay, so now you can see where I've taped off the black square with the blue square. Again, the blue tape is on the edge of the black tape. So all we do is peel the black tape off, and we can spray paint that. Have it nice and have the edges nice and tight around this nut here, so it doesn't have any bleeding. Make sure all the edges are nice. Boom, 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 boom. And that's that. We can go spray it. Before we head out to the shed, because it's freaking downpouring, we're gonna tackle the control box here. So let's move on to that. Okay, so I got another flash here, and I've taped some 220 sandpaper to it. And we're going to smooth out the bottom of the control box that Trent supplied us. So as you can see, we need to sand just a little bit. So we'll continue to do that. I'm going to use the vacuum every now and then to clean up the resin, and then I'll report back. I opted to change the sandpaper like this. It allows for a much easier stroke, and it's more consistent that way. So you have some sandpaper, wrap it around like that, works much easier. All right, so now we got the bottom of the control box sanded nice and smooth. I'm just going to take a little bit of 220 and just lightly sand the sides a little bit, like so. We're going like on a 45-degree angle against the print. That's pretty much it there. You can feel the sandpaper get faster when the print lines are worn down. Barely anything to sand though. Like that. There's a line here we have to pay attention to, so that's where the sticker goes, so don't sand that line off. That's it right there. There's a line here too. Actually, I was confused, sorry. Line's over here. And then just a light scuff. I think 220 is too rough for this. I would have gone with a 300 or wet sanded it. I'm going to run over to the sink and dry this off. Well, wash it off. Okay, so now that she's dried off, we're going to go turn the electric heat on in the shed, warm that place up so we can paint these two and start the next step. So I'll see you guys out in the shed. Okay, so we're back out in the shed. We got our control box and our flash. So believe it or not, we're going to be using a different kind of flat black. So this is Rust-Oleum's, oh goodness, flat black, but it's got a different code on here, 249127 flat black. So we'll throw that over there, and this is what we're going to be using for the control box and the shroud cover here. Trent likes this one better than the Superformance because he says it's got a little bit of a different sheen to it. So we're going to, we'll give this one a coat, and I think I'm going to hit this with a little bit of primer first. So warmed up the shed, I'm going to open the door, give it a coat, and then report back. So I'll catch you guys in a little bit. One thing I should mention, we had a sticker on here, so I just gave it a light rub with some rubbing alcohol to make sure it's perfectly clean for the paint. So let's go do that now. Okay, so we have the control box primed, and Trent's next instructions is to lightly scuff the primer with fine sandpaper. So I just happen to have 400 here. I'll give it a light scuff. Get the highs off of it. You can see where some of the dust has fallen. And now we'll give it a coat of that new flat black. Okay guys, Hallowax here. It's been actually a few days, but we've managed to paint the control box and the flash. So tonight we're going to go over applying the stickers. Okay guys, let's start cracking away at applying these stickers. So remember, we have the triangle pieces that we're going to put as close to the bottom as we can. We're going to have our front bar that gets lined up on this line here. And then our bottom one is going to be somewhat in the middle. So we'll start with this piece here. Probably gonna have to take the gloves off for this. Okay, so maybe taking off this one here first. Now before you stick it down, check your reference. Okay, so that looks good. So you can stick that down. Next, we're going to do the one that goes across the top here in this groove. And this is probably the scariest one, because I think this is where I might fail. This chrome tape he has is phenomenal. Let's see. There's two flat edges, like where the angle starts here and here, and that is the same width as the control box. So you want to get each where the angle changes, you want that on the edge of each control box, on each side of the control box. You also want this edge lined up on the line on the control box. Can we see this? When you fold it, it's probably going to change. See, I'm not going to press down hard because I want to see. I'm going to go back and check my reference and make sure there's going to be a space there. So we're going to go back, check the reference. Okay, I think it's looking good. This last one has a back to it, remember now. This is the back. This is the front. The back has a space now where the T-track's going to go. So my idea of lining this up is I'm going to take this here and line it up on this edge here. And remember, Trent says we want this one to run in the middle. So we're going to have a little black line on the bottom and a black line on the top. Make sure your control box is in the right orientation to match the sticker. I'm lining my edges up. I don't know if this is too low. Trent said you want that in the middle. This one has to come up. If I fold this over, it's going to look good there. If I fold this over, it's going to look good there. I just want to make sure that this line here is good. Can it come down a little bit? This is where prop making kind of can get in the way with replica building can get in the way of the real deal because nobody took the time into making sure this was all straight. They just threw it on there. So I'll just fold it. Yep. The lighting's terrible. I keep saying it's terrible. I got to do something about it. Okay, I just want to check my reference. That is sleek, man. Man, that is sleek. All right, we're going to go check the reference. Okay, so now that we have everything stuck on this side, everything is in the right location, we just give it a little press down. Then you can repeat the process on the opposite side. So once I do that, I'll report back and then it will be screw time. Okay, so the box is covered in its chrome tape. It's covered in dust. I sat here a few days until I could get to it. Now we're going to talk about screws. So Trent's screws look like he matched them perfectly. So I asked him what he used, and he's like, this is just stuff I had around the house. So I blew up his picture and scaled it, and I'm coming up with number 632 screws. Of course, my hardware store didn't have 632 Phillips head screws, but they had number 6 wood screws. That looks like this. So I grabbed these because technically, if we wanted to, we could take some 632 machine screws, put this on the flash, make a jig to hold them two together, and then drill press them in, and then thread and tap it. But not everybody has all these tools or the ability to make the jigs, so I'm just going to use these wood screws here. 632 machine screws would be ideal though. I'm going to E6000 those in, and then I'm a fan of mechanical attachments, so I'm going to drill a hole, countersink it, and install this 632 flathead screw in the center, and then eventually my switch, whatever I decide to use, will cover the head of the screw. So again, you you don't have to do the next step that I'm going to do with the screw. You can easily just E6000 it on and it'd be done. But I like to be able to take things apart, and if I have to, and that's what I'm going to do. So technically we should go out to the shed and drill and countersink a hole. So I'll meet you guys out there. Okay, so we got the control box now in the drill press, and I got a 9/64 drill bit. And we're going to drill the hole for the machine screw, but technically I should have done this first before even painting. But this was a last minute decision about being mechanically attached, and so I got to go with it now, like this. I find sometimes when drilling through resin, there's air pockets. I doubt with Trent's kit because it's resin printed, and the way that, make sure you hold on to the control box, otherwise it will rip out of your hand right then and there. But with other castings, I tend to get air pockets in there. It blows up in your face and dust goes everywhere. It's not good to breathe. So now we'll change the bit out for the countersink and be back. Okay, alright, so I installed a 3/8 countersink bit. And if you notice, the hole that I drilled is a little bit further back. So that way I can put a switch in the location that I want. So now let's countersink the screw here. So we got this going on now. Let's see if it fits. Oh, you're gonna embarrass me on. No, it's going. It's just filled with crap. Okay, now that we got the control box pretty much done and out of the way, let's get back to the actual flash. So, gotta remove the painter's tape and be back. Alright, so now that we have the flash tape removed, it reveals the pattern from TrooperTrent's stencil pattern. We're going to next need to start mapping out the orientation of all this stuff, and it's not as simple as the other projects that we've worked on because we've had easier things to line up. This is a little bit different. So my personal starting point is I take my track, and again I use Corbanth track, and we're gonna put the track on the tube, and we're gonna start making our marks here. And this is gonna give me a rough idea. Oops. You don't have to use Corbanth track. There's nothing wrong with replica track. Just my personal taste and belief is it's not the same track as the original trilogy on the holiday special. And I'm getting pretty close to finding something that resembles it, but I haven't found it yet. I'm getting close. Okay, so I got my pencil lines here. This isn't where the track belongs. This is just me making a reference point now. So we gotta map out where our track goes, and now we're gonna have to start putting our control box where she belongs, because in order to get the tracks in the exact locations they're supposed to be, we need three or four things to be on point. One, we need the shroud locked in exactly where it's supposed to be, which is easy because the arrow lines it up for us. And two is we need Trent's end plug to go a certain way with the shroud. And once we lock the shroud up with the text on the end cap, then we can line up the control box. Well, technically you don't have to. We can line up the control box a different way. But with the end cap in, we'll be able to locate each track exactly where it's supposed to go, because these aren't evenly spaced on here. They're all over the place, and two of them are actually almost touching each other. So let's go to our reference and start locating our control box. Okay, so we went over our reference. So the control box, this is the back, gets lined up on this cylinder, this set of plugs here. And if you line this edge up with the bottom of these plugs here, this should almost be in line with the plus and negative here. So how do we do that? We have our line where our tracks are to stop. So our next step is, let's break out our angle iron, line up our angle iron on the square plugs, and make a reference line there. So now if we take that like that, put it on our reference line, hold it down, and look at it this way, it's starting to look okay. Might want to hug this side just a little bit of our reference line. That looks much better. Yep. Alright, so we got our track, so let's just take our piece of track here and double check, because this is going to go in this, this is going to go in the center here. So sure enough, our track fits, our control box is in the right spot. So this is now where it comes up to you, where if you want to E6000 it in, you can do that later. You can do the track first, or you can do that right now. So I'm going to drill and tap this, and yeah, I'm going to drill and tap it now. Okay, again, before we drill a hole, I always use my center punch on something round. This should have all been done before we painted and put our stickers on. Again, I changed my mind and said, you know what, screw it, I'm going to go with mechanically attaching it. The 9/64 hole also fits this bit, so that's good. So next I'm just going to drill and tap the hole. I really don't need to set the camera up and show you how to do that. You've seen me do that in other videos, so I'll report back. Alright, so that worked out pretty good. We drilled and tapped a hole for a 632 screw. We used our flathead screw, and she's on there good. So if you look, we got it lined up. Pretty good. And I don't know if you can see my pencil line, but that's how much right there. Excuse me. It's how much I've went over the pencil line to line it up over here. So again, like I said, the placement of the grips is kind of crucial on this because they're all over the place. But as long as we have the control box in place and we're gonna put the shroud on like this, everything's gonna work out fine. So actually, if you've cut and assembled your shroud correctly, the edge in there should sit on top of here and just line up the hole at the top. So that the arrow here, that's where that belongs. So I would E6000 that into place, let it sit overnight, and our next step is grips. And there's a big surprise coming on the grip episode, so you want to pay attention to that. And I mean a big reveal. So we're just going to E6000 this, let it sit, and then next episode will be the grips. And if I can do it in quick enough time, we'll do the button as well. So I hope this video helps you with the control box. I'm sorry it took so long. I've had a lot of stuff going on, but again, we're cracking at it, and it should be finished by this weekend. So stay on the lookout for the grip video next. Big surprise coming, courtesy of Trent. Have a good one, guys.